Everyone wants to move out of their parents' home for freedom, and this has become a major issue of the young generation and everyone trying to weigh out, should they remain in their parents' home or should they move out on their own? Now, today we are going to be breaking down this whole issue to consider which is best and how effective is it and how much pressure will it inflict on your life. Now, first things first, many young people face this question like, should I move out of my parents' home? Now, not knowing the repercussions. Now, to many young people, they think the main issue or the main goal that could maybe bring a conflict is the issue of rent. But turns out to be that there are more things that are going to affect this whole process that are more than rent. Now, moving out feels like freedom. Yes, today many people want to be in their own space, to make their own rules, simply because in their parents' home they tend to be questioned so much, their whereabouts. In other words, parents need proper accountability of your life and everything. So many young people tend to move out. Yes, this decision is majorly taken when the person or when the young adult earns their first job or their first payment. In most cases, when these people get their first payment, let's say, for example, here in my country, the basic salary can be, if a graduate, can be around 500 to 1M. Now, eventually, after this salary is earned, well, you start making some decisions. You may want to move out, yes, to maybe figure out your own life. Yes, there are disadvantages and there are also advantages to that. Now, let's first look at the advantages of staying home. Now, first things first, you don't pay rent. Well, food is shared at home and everything. There are some things they cater for. Electricity and water is covered. Yes, there is no pressure for looking for money for that and everything. You get some financial support here and there from your parents. And another thing, another major thing, it is easier to save money. Yes, because simply because you're earning and also you have that support from home, so it is easier to save your money. Let's talk about the real cost of moving out of your parents' home. Now, rent, the big factor to consider is rent. When you're estimating from the salary of earning of around 500 to 1M, let's say you're earning salary of 1M, you'll eventually want to crib in a house, or you'll want to go and stay in an area of, or in a house of roughly 250K. After considering that, after moving out, you have to consider you have to pay for everything. Turns out suddenly, out of the blue, you have to pay for everything. Now, including that very, very rent, including Yaka, which is electricity, and it is costly. We have water. Then you'll eventually have to purchase food for yourself. Then we have the transport costs to your workplace. All the bills hit you at once without any help, without anything. Remember, you've moved. Yes, and this is the dangerous parts you don't consider. Now we have these things that are one-time setups, like we have the bed. You're purchasing yourself a bed, utensils, your cutlery and everything, maybe a cooker. You can eventually purchase some curtains here and there. Well, roughly it costs around, let me say, 300 to 800K, like to cater for those small one-time setup costs. Now, the monthly hidden costs, we have money for gas or charcoal. That is when you're going to decide to cook. Then we have things like soap, things like, like the constant food restocking and everything. There are those monthly costs you have to pick on. Now, another problem is the safety net. You lack the safety net. In other words, no one is helping you. Some ways there's a possibility whereby your parents can come in and help you some way or another. But that is at initial stages. Now we are talking about surviving after some time and everything. Yeah, there are those small mistakes you do that eventually hurt you in the long run. Now, let's consider the daily life difference. You see, at home, food is ready. Yes, their costs are shared. There is less pressure for survival and everything. But when you're alone, every meal every meal you take is costly. Every decision is on you. Everything you want to purchase is on you. Even small things like maybe you need a judge to take you somewhere, you need airtime, you need maybe buying food or something. Now those things all become calculated, and in the long run they run you off the road or something. Now let's talk about the freedom versus the pressure. Now, moving out gives you privacy. First things first, yeah, privacy whereby you can invite friends as you want, you can invite anyone. In other words, you're free to do anything you want. Then the second thing, independency. Yeah, you can make your own decisions as you want. Yeah, you decide on in which direction your life will move on and everything. Yeah, then also you have full control over your life. But all those things add on the financial pressure, because they literally nowadays the world moves on everything. Okay, everything has to be financial. In other words, now we have also the heavy responsibilities that come with those decisions you're making, the privacy, the independency and everything. Then also there is no room for mistakes. It's not that you'll do a mistake and okay, you can do a financial mistake, trust me, it will hit you, or like it will hit you so bad. But at home, if you're still residing maybe at home, you can fall into a financial incident and maybe your parents can be able to uplift you in some way or another. Now, let's talk about what you gain from staying home. Yeah, now staying home, it will, as mentioned earlier, you'll be stable. Yes, your life can be stable, then also support. Then talking of lower expenses here and there, but it also costs you in some way. Yes, whereby there is less freedom if you're coming from home, or if you're still residing at home, there is less freedom. In other words, you won't come back home anytime you want. You have to be accountable for everything. Then you won't make funny decisions here and there. Yeah, then this is where the family rules come in, the limitations and everything, because there are families whereby you have to be home by 6. Yeah, now those rules and limitations come in. Yeah, now what is the whole truth about this whole thing? Moving out is expensive, not mainly because of rent. Yes, it is expensive because everything falls on you. And many people fail because they underestimate that that principle we are talking about of full cost. Yeah, many people underestimate that. They think they can live on their own. Yes, now this, okay, depends on your situation. If you're having stable income, yes, fine, and you're disciplined and you can take care of yourself, moving out is a good option. But if you're still building and you've not yet learned survival and everything, staying at home is a better insight. It is the smart decision. Yes, because like, okay, initially it doesn't mean you're a failure, because there are some people where after university they don't want to even go back to their home and everything. Well, it is not failure, because here what you should know, like, freedom is not expensive because of rent. It is expensive because everything falls on you. Thank you.